So, the last time we looked at The Simpsons, we looked at the physics involved in the Simpsons movie, seeing if it would be possible for Homer to make it all the way around a dome that contains Springfield to stop the EPA and save the town. Today, we're going to take a look at something a bit more grounded: three-eyed fish produced by an unsafe nuclear power plant. Hello everybody, and welcome to the Science Of, where today we're jumping back into the science behind America's favourite cartoon family circa 2007. Now, as I've mentioned before, I am a huge Simpsons fan. From its writing to its characters, I've enjoyed the series from season 3 and I still watch to this day, even if the most recent episodes leave a bit to be desired. Today, we're going to take a look at a classic Simpsons season 2 episode, 2 cars in every garage and 3 eyes in every fish, otherwise known as the Blinky episode. This was the 4th episode of season 2 and was written by Simpsons co-creator Sam Simon and John Swartzwelder, who went on to be the most prolific writer on staff, contributing to over 59 episodes of the show. The plot of this episode is pretty simple. Bart catches a three-eyed fish, named Blinky, in the river that goes by the nuclear power plant, and of course it makes headlines. This draws the attention of the state nuclear inspectors, who go on to find numerous safety violations and order Mr. Burns to fix them, or else the plant will be closed down. Burns plans to run for governor so that he can remove these regulations, though of course this doesn't end up going well, with Burns' campaign being ruined by a dinner with the Simpsons where he served Blinky. Whilst many Simpsons writers have backgrounds in a variety of STEM subjects, such as Bill Odenkirk, who started writing for the show from season 16 and has a PhD in organic chemistry, or Futurama co-developer David X. Cohen, who wrote for the show from season 6 and holds a bachelor degree in physics from Harvard, neither Simon or Swartzwelder have backgrounds in biology, with Simons having a degree in psychology and very little information being available on Swartzwelder. So it'll be interesting to see how accurately this episode portrays mutations and the effect of nuclear power. But before we start today's video, a quick reminder as always that if you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe and click that bell to keep up to date from everything from the Science Of. If you're looking for game-based content, then you can join me over on Twitch, where I livestream 3 times a week playing all manner of games suggested by the community. When looking at this episode, it's surprising how little Blinky actually features, given how much representation he's had in Simpsons spin-off media. He's in the introduction as the inciting incident for the episode, appears in Mr. Burns' TV commercial discussing his existence, and appears at the end as part of Marge's meal. Most of the episode is set aside for the safety issue of the power plant and Mr. Burns running for governor. The important question for Blinky is it possible for any creature to have more than 3 eyes without the need for genetic mutation? Well, yes it is. A third eye is not as rare as you might think. These third eyes, or parietal eyes, are found as a part of the epithalamus present on certain species of fish, reptiles and amphibians. For example, tuatara are an incredibly rare species of reptiles that are found exclusively in New Zealand. They're a special case as they're the last surviving member of the phylogenetic order Sphenodontia, an order which contained many species alive during the Triassic period, roughly 250 million years ago. When these living fossils hatch, they have 3 eyes on their head, 2 larger ones on either side of their skull, and 1 much smaller one on the top of its head. It's worth noting that even if you see one of these lizards, you aren't likely to see that third eye, because it gets covered in scales and pigments after a few months of development. So now you may be wondering, what's the point of a third eye that gets covered up? Well, this is the subject of ongoing research, with some scientists believing that its role is to regulate hormone production and thermoregulation by acting as a dosimeter, reacting to the intensity of solar radiation, allowing the owner to select the optimal timing to partake in a variety of activities. Coming back to fish, our first evidence of a parietal eye were from the fish of the Devonian period, 350 million years ago. In modern times, we find this parietal eyes on sharks, lampreys and some bonny fish. Again, these aren't eyes for the fish to see out of, getting covered with pigments and scales. But this is nowhere near as obvious as Blinky's third eye. So what if we want to make something a bit more similar? Well, now that we know that a real-world third eye is possible, but pretty underwhelming, it's time to ask, is it possible for nuclear radiation to mutate any organisms to grow extra functioning limbs, eyes or more? The Simpsons has never been afraid to show the effects of radiation, From Homer possibly being infertile from season 3's Brother Can You Spare 2 Dimes, to Homer's circulatory system glowing green without the need for a phosphorescent dye in season 4's Homer's triple bypass. As well as these more realistic impacts of prolonged exposure to nuclear material, The Simpsons also exhibit a more exaggerated impact, such as trees with tentacles and squirrels with laser eyes from Marge vs. the Monorail, and the giant Godzilla-sized representations of Marie and Pierre Curie in a dream sequence of season 4's Marge Gets a Job. Season 4 really did have a thing for nuclear-based jokes, didn't it? Now, of course, radioactivity isn't going to result in tentacled trees or giant Polish physicists. But could it cause any mutations in a fish that could result in an organism like Blinky? I sort of discussed this during my video looking at if a radioactive spider could lead to Peter Parker becoming Spider-Man. But needless to say, that once an organism is fully developed and born, they won't be producing any extra limbs as a result of radioactive exposure. But what kind of natural mutation could result in extra limbs or an eye? Well, when it comes to genetic mutations in fish, we haven't been able to find any true three-eyed mutants, although there have been many news stories about supposed specimens found in the wild. For a real mutant, we have to look on changes on a smaller scale from February of this year. Scientists from Harvard University have been studying the impact of a single genetic change and how this can genetically mutate fish from having fins to limbs. Their study, Latent Developmental Potential to Form Limb-like Skeletal Structures in Zebrafish, was published in February of this year, and focuses on mutations within the zebrafish found in southern Asia. In these mutants, it was observed that their pectoral fins had developed supernally long bones, alongside new musculature. These formed joints that articulated with neighbouring elements. This change was caused by the upregulation of two regulators of appendage patterning called VAV2 and WASLB. These work in tandem along a common pathway required for appendage development across all vertebrates. Whilst this isn't a whole new fin, and just some added musculature and a new joint, rather than a fully functioning eye, it does go to show how a single mutation is able to significantly alter the expressed phenotype of an organism. So the radiation might not be enough to grow extra limbs, but what impact could the plant have on fish? And would they be safe to serve up as a meal? While Springfield isn't the safest power plant in the world, over the course of its 30 seasons, it has never experienced a complete meltdown. It has come close on more than one occasion, but every time it's been resolved by the end of the episode. And whilst it's definitely not the best plant in the world, it does appear to be relatively safe, with cooling being done thanks to the help of the Springfield River running by it, where Blinky was caught. Nuclear power plants require large amounts of water for their cooling systems, and most of them use water from natural ecosystems, drawing in water from rivers and oceans. Springfield's nuclear power plant is a pressurized water reactor plant. This means that the water is held under high pressure, with the heat being transferred to the water outside of the core using a steam generator. This steam is then used to power a turbine and turn a generator producing electricity. This steam is then cooled off and condensed back into water using the water from local rivers and lakes, as well as giant cooling towers. When the steam is cool, the resulting water is either recirculated and reused, or discharged back into nearby bodies of water. This pumping of water for cooling unfortunately means that many water-bound organisms are sucked up with the water, resulting in many fish getting trapped and killed inside the plants. Research conducted at the Forsmark nuclear plant in Sweden recorded the number and weight of fish trapped over a 24-hour period for a week. Over the 2 years that this study was carried out, over 56 million fish weighing in at over 101,000 kilograms were trapped at those filtering stations. Now that's a lot of fish. But whilst this shows what goes on inside the plant, it doesn't tell us how being so close to the plant would impact any fish remaining in the river. Although you may think that the water coming out of the plant is radioactive compared to the water going in, that is not necessarily the case. The water doesn't become radioactive when used near a nuclear reactor, but it may be contaminated by traces of radioactivity during the fission process. What nuclear power plants do release is thermal water pollution, with water discharged back into the natural body being around 30 to 40 degrees Celsius. Now, that's quite a bit warmer than the water that goes into the plant, and as a result there's an immediate change in the water's dissolved oxygen levels and an increase in the water's pH levels. This increase in temperature accelerates the metabolism of cold-blooded animals like fish, which may cause malnutrition if suitable food sources aren't available, leading to many more vulnerable species dying out, whilst others might just leave the area. In all honesty, it's probably a miracle that Bart and Lisa can catch anything close to where the power plant is pumping out their cooling water. So there we go. Surprisingly, the three-eyed fish isn't as unrealistic as you might imagine, even though the third eye might not be exactly the same as the episode shows. And whilst power plants may not result in radioactive super carp, I wouldn't go eating the fish you'd catch there, providing you can catch anything at all. As always, if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to help combat the ever-changing and frustrating YouTube algorithm, make sure you share the video to help my channel grow. If you have any particular scientific subject or topic that you'd like to see me cover in the future, then please tell me in the comments down below. As well as that, follow me on Twitter to get updates for the latest science of videos, and join my Discord for chats about science, gaming and more. But until then, this has been the Science of the Simpsons. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. If you're looking for game-based content, then you can join me over on Twitch, where I livestream 3 times a week playing all manner of games suggested by the community.